I saved the rest of the reading as a prelude to the sermon. And it goes like this. When Herod saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, he was infuriated and sent and killed all the children in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old or under, according to the time that he had learned from the wise men. Then was fulfilled what had been spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. A voice was heard in Ramah, wailing and loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be consoled because they are no more. When Herod died, an angel of the Lord suddenly appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who were seeking the child's life are dead. Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was ruling over Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. And after being warned in a dream, he went away to the district of Galilee. There he made his home in a town called Nazareth, so that what had been spoken through the prophets might be fulfilled. He will be called a Nazarene. The gospel of Jesus Christ. That's the part of the Christmas story we rarely deal with, but it deals with endings and beginnings. The ending is referred to the ending of the lives of the children in Bethlehem. The beginning is the birth of Jesus and his safety and his coming back to eventually fulfill his birth, his ministry, his obedience to God, his life and death, and his resurrection. Every Sunday, no matter what time of the year, even Lent, is called a little Easter. And we recognize that on Sunday, Christ rose. And so every Sunday, we reaffirm that we are here not just because we're going to sing hymns and go through the regular rituals of praising God, but we're here to affirm that we too share in the resurrection of Jesus Christ, even in a time of darkness. Now, the story of the slaughter of the children in Bethlehem is very difficult, and one of the questions that always comes up is, well, why didn't God warn all the other families that this was happening? Why weren't they provided with a means of escape? And I don't have an answer. But I do point out that the story is told not so much to place the darkness and the terror of the families in Bethlehem. The story is told to demonstrate that this child, Joseph and Mary's child and God's child, this child would be protected because what this child was bringing into the world would be salvation and redemption and new life, even for those little ones who died in Bethlehem. There is darkness and light in the world, and at the end of the year, we think about our endings and our beginnings. There were times in our life that many of us have had moments of darkness. I've had some darkness, and it comes and goes, just like many of you. Back in 1988, I was diagnosed with cancer. And it was a scary kind that was not sure how things would go. And for about 2 or 3 weeks, I was living on the edge of waiting for the report to tell me if I had something that could be easily treated or if I needed to prepare for my demise. Not an easy thing when you have a 2-year-old son and you're in a new church, and that was darkness. That darkness came. Fortunately, I had a report 2 or 3 weeks later that said the cancer I had was very treatable and probably localized. But I had to go through 6 weeks of radiation therapy once I recovered from the surgery. And then 6 weeks later, I was about as limp as a dish rag. If any of you have had radiation therapy, you know it just saps everything out of you. I only missed one Sunday during that whole time. If I had it to do over again, I think I would have missed a lot more. But had to be there every Sunday. So 5 days a week, one of my church members would pick me up and take me over to Fairfax Hospital, and I would get the radiation treatments, and then they would help me get in the car, and they'd take me home, and I'd sort of crawl back home and get into bed and sleep for the rest of the day. I had medication to cope with the nausea, and maybe around 3 or 4 o'clock, I would be feeling better. And so to have something to do with my son, Andrew, who was 2 years old, I would put him in his car seat, and we would go to the giant supermarket, which had all sorts of lights and displays. I put him in the grocery cart and just walk around the grocery store with him because I had the cart to lean on and point out things. And if there might be a few items we needed, I'd put them in the cart. Andrew at that age would also put things in the cart that I didn't necessarily need. And thus that went for about 5 weeks. Out of that darkness came light. As I began to regain my strength and resume the duties, during that time of darkness, light would come in every Sunday as I was feeling a little bit more perky and I was able to preach. But at the end of the day, I was back in bed again. We dedicated the new church during this time that we had built. And we had our very first Sunday in that new church where 400 people attended. And we were there celebrating what God had made possible in that new community. Then I'd go home and rest up. We have a way sometimes of, even in the midst of darkness, having opportunities to seeing life, the light that comes in. We have an opportunity as we confront the endings of one facet of our life, the endings of a year, the endings of the time that we have been living, to see a new beginning. A new beginning is going to start for us this week. And what I ask that all of you do as you confront the endings is to not wring your hands and worry about what you didn't do, what you could have done, what you should have done. Oh, what I expected to accomplish this year, it's gone. It's gone. You've got a new year. And with that new year comes the opportunity to be more open to the strength and light that God gives you, even in the midst of darkness. We're facing a new beginning, even though we acknowledge the ending of certain things. And this is God's way of showing us that no matter what darkness comes into our life, no matter what struggle or pain or life-threatening situation that we face, even then the light of God will give us new life. Even then, in the ultimate tragedy of death, the light will come in and we will have new life. And our families will have the comfort of knowing that we are with God. The last words of John Wesley before he died, laying in his bed with his family and followers and people that had worked with him to start what was the Methodist movement in the Church of England. He was lying in his bed and he said these last words: "Best of all, we have God with us. Best of all, we have God's light with us, even in our darkness."